Now that I've spoke about some things I don't want to see in Assassin's Creed Ragnarok in 2 or 3 videos now, I thought why not discuss some of the features that I actually want to see in the game, specifically features from older titles in the series. So without further ado, let's get into this. So the very first feature that I want to return in Assassin's Creed Ragnarok is social stealth. If you don't know what social stealth is, it's basically when you could use your environments to hide, whether it be blending with a crowd, using benches, just generally things like that. It was one of those features that really added to the immersion of the older games as well as the gameplay. Sneaking into Jerusalem disguised as a monk or escaping guards by slipping away onto a bench just added so much to the stealth of the game, as well as just making you feel like an assassin and getting immersed in that world. On top of the immersion and the gameplay, it also just added to the density of each world. When crowds became getaways and hay bales became hiding spots, the world was just far more interactive and dynamic. It made each location feel far more alive. In its current state, the stealth, it's just fine. It's not the best in the world, but it does its job. I just feel it could be done far better with the inclusion of social stealth. And I know Vikings aren't the most inconspicuous of blokes, but if this can blend in to 16th century Florence, I'm sure Vikings can too. Now this might seem like a bit of an odd choice to some of you, but something I'd really like to come back in the next game is the safe house. I've always liked having a safe house or base in pretty much any open world game, especially if you can customise and upgrade them, but for Assassin's Creed they felt especially important. The safe houses we've had in the past haven't just been safe houses, but also just bases of operations, places to renovate, take on missions, view mementos, store armour, among so many other things, and this game could potentially expand on what a safe house is. Something I also noticed when scripting this video is that each safe house in some way sort of reflects the game's setting. In Syndicate we had a steam train, representative of 19th century London. We also had the Cafe Theatre in 18th century Paris in Unity, as well as a homestead in the American frontier in Assassin's Creed 3. With Ragnarok, Ash and the Origins team can do so much. We could have camps with various other Vikings and factions similar to Red Dead 2, or siege castles and fortresses to take for our own. This also brings about opportunities for renovations and upgrades, which brings me on to my next point. Now one of the things I want to see added back into the franchise are upgrades and renovations. And when I say that, I don't mean exclusively for safe houses. In the past we've renovated cities and businesses, and I really love those micromanaging mechanics. However, if they were to come back, it'd have to be completely different given the Viking setting. The Origins team could definitely still include those micromanagement elements though. We could upgrade and defend castles and bases, upgrading things like ships, as well as expanding camps, maybe adding and improving on things like blacksmith stores maybe. Of course this is all just an idea on how this will be included in the game, and even if camps, castles and customizable ships don't exist, I'd love to see these kind of features make a return in some capacity. Putting your money into something always made the economy feel worthwhile, especially when you got your money back, and the general elements of property management could still be used in a game like Ragnarok just as they were in the earlier games. Now in terms of the game's combat, I'd love to see counters make a return. I'm fully aware the newer games have used parrying, but it's just not the same as having counter moves to me. I do enjoy using parrying, and I'm not at all saying that it's bad or doesn't work. I'm just saying I'd prefer counters, or even both potentially. Now I understand the removal of counters and the addition of parrying is part of the new RPG direction, but I definitely feel there's still a place for these. Whether they only be used on low health enemies or when using a certain ability, it'd just be great to see these come back in some capacity. Not only do they feel good and work with the gameplay, but they look great. It felt amazing getting double counters in Assassin's Creed 3 or 4, or trying out all the different weapons in every game to see the difference between the way they acted and countered. And this sort of variety in weapons really does lend itself to the RPG format more than did any of the other Assassin's Creed games. And if we did see counters return in Ragnarok, I feel it'd make the combat far more interesting, and combine that with the Viking setting and the brutality around that, and you could have some absolutely beautiful kill animations that surpass Assassin's Creed 3. It'd be amazing to take part in a huge conquest battle with your faction of Vikings, just performing all these different counter kills and animations, and on the whole, I just feel it adds so much to the combat that Ubisoft really shouldn't miss out on it. Now the number one spot on this list for features I'd like to return in Assassin's Creed Ragnarok is assassin recruitment. We've seen a few leaks say the next game is going to include these, but I thought I'd put it on the list since none of these leaks are really that credible. Now, assassin recruits are great. It was a lot of fun growing the Brotherhood and making your recruits stronger and then being able to benefit off that by calling them in to help you. It was just a really great gameplay loop. I could just imagine being able to pick up new members of your faction when raiding a village or visiting a new place on various missions, and the nature of Viking clans and the fact that Vikings were usually in groups really suits the idea of assassin recruits. I'd imagine that you could upgrade these like in Revelations or Brotherhood, but it'd be great if you could have them actually follow you permanently and join your guild and fight alongside you in naval missions and conquest battles should they exist. So anyway guys, those are just a few features I would like to see return in Assassin's Creed Ragnarok. While I was concepting this and thinking up like, just different ideas for this, I thought there was so many different things that could be included. So if you do want to see like a part 2 to this, then be sure to leave a like. For now though, thank you all for watching and I'll see you next time.